Imagine this situation. It's the 2018 NHL Draft Lottery. The Montreal Canadiens have claimed the 6th overall pick, the Senators the 5th overall pick, the Sabres the 4th overall pick. And in terms of the top 3 draft picks that were selected by lottery, the Arizona Coyotes have selected 3rd, and they have won the 3rd overall lottery. There are 2 spots left, and there are 2 teams that haven't secured a spot yet. The Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. One of these teams will pick 1st overall, and the other will pick 2nd. The bald man takes out his card, and he flips it over. He reads to the audience, the 1st overall selection in the 2018 NHL Draft belongs to the Edmonton Oilers, and the Vancouver Canucks are doomed once again into not getting the 1st overall pick, and for however many times it's been, they end up with 2nd. Because they've ended up with 2nd quite a bit. They've never gotten 1st, and it won't continue here. Imagine this scenario where the Vancouver Canucks are drafting 2nd overall. What if? What if the Vancouver Canucks draft 2nd overall in this year's draft? I made a video talking about what if we drafted 1st, and what if we drafted Rasmus Dahlin, who is going to be 1st overall. That's basically a given right now. Everyone knows that Dahlin's going 1st, but what about 2nd? Because 2nd has always been kind of a weird spot in every single NHL draft that has ever transpired. Last year, everyone was debating whether or not Hischier or Patrick would go 1 or 2. The year before that, everyone thought that Jacob Chychrun would have been 2nd overall at the beginning of the year. No one had any idea of Patrick Laine or Jesse Puljujarvi or Pierre-Luc Dubois. These guys all rose, and Chychrun, on the other hand, he dropped to the teens, so that year was unpredictable as well. Going back to 2015, everyone kind of knew, okay, Eichel was going to go 2nd, but there were a few hopeful fans wishing that Edmonton would take Eichel 1st, and McDavid would have dropped to 2nd. 2nd overall has always been a weird little thing going on. Everyone really doesn't know who's going to go 2nd, and this year it's no different. If you go onto many different scout lists and everything, Dahlin is number 1. That's universal. But 2nd, there's a little bit of a shakeup for 2nd overall, and I remember at the beginning of the year and the end of last year, everyone was saying, okay, it's going to be Andrei Svechnikov. Andrei Svechnikov is going to be 2nd overall. He is the next coming of Malkin. And I heard that comparison being made a few times, that Svechnikov was the best Russian prospect since Evgeny Malkin. And that's incredible because, well, Evgeny Malkin, he was also drafted 2nd overall, so that's pretty good. But, of course, as we go further and further down through this year, there aren't really that many people saying that Svechnikov is going to be the next Malkin, but there are a lot of people still saying that he's going to be very good. However, things aren't necessarily as universal with the 2nd overall pick as they are with the 1st, because if you go to many different draft prospect rankings, number 2 varies quite a bit. It's about a 50-50 split between people saying Andrei Svechnikov is going to go 2nd overall, and Czech winger Filip Zadina is going to go 2nd overall. These two will most likely be number 2 and number 3. It's just whoever goes number 2, really that depends on what the team is looking for and who the team likes more, basically. Because both of these guys, there's a really strong debate that they are interchangeable. And they are basically just Russian and Czech versions of each other. Because Filip Zadina, playing for the Halifax Mooseheads right now, 63 points in 44 games, that's really, really good for an 18-year-old. Andrei Svechnikov right now, playing for the Barrie Colts, 48 points in 32 games, that's really good for a 17, soon-to-be 18-year-old. Both of these guys are really good players, and the debate is going on between who's going to go 2nd and who's going to go 3rd. You could have other prospects in that mix as well. The 2, 3, 4 range in this year's draft is really being tossed up between Andrei Svechnikov, Filip Zadina, Adam Boqvist, and Brady Tkachuk. Those guys are all in the mix in everyone's minds on who's going to go in that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th position, and who knows, because this draft is really, really deep, and there are a lot of good players, but for the most part, Dahlin number 1, number 2, and number 3 are to be decided between majority Svechnikov and Zadina. You have some Tkachuks in there, you have some Boqvists in there, but looking at this video from the perspective of what if the Vancouver Canucks drafted second, if we were to go with the best player available motto, we would most likely pick either Svechnikov or Zadina. So what does this mean? What if the Vancouver Canucks drafted Andrei Svechnikov or Filip Zadina? If we wanted to take a look at Adam Boqvist or Brady Tkachuk, I feel like we would probably trade down for those guys because I don't see them heading in the top 3. Boqvist, maybe, but it really depends on the team. Of course, in this situation, Vancouver's picking second and we want to go with the best player available, so what do we do? If we go with Andrei Svechnikov, we draft this Russian right winger who's going to be really good. I think there's kind of a problem. In my opinion, there's just a little bit of a problem because Andrei Svechnikov here, who is a right winger, who is a left-handed shot, who is 6'3", 187 pounds at 17 years of age, he's a right winger. And if he's content with playing on that right side and staying there, my only concern is what's going to happen to Brock Boeser? Because he's a right winger too, and I don't know. I mean, we could have a really stacked power play if we had a power play with Andrei Svechnikov on the right side and Brock Boeser on the left side and like an Elias Pettersson down the middle. That would be awesome, but what would happen in normal 5-on-5 lines? What would that be like? Would we as fans be okay with seeing Svechnikov being moved to the left wing position when he's been comfortable playing on the right wing this whole time? I don't know. If we drafted Filip Zadina, who you could say his potential is as good as Andrei Svechnikov, Zadina fits in because he's a left winger, and our left wing depth isn't really that strong. You guys saw that video I made a few days ago. The best left winger we had was Jonathan Dahlin, and he wasn't even listed as a left winger, he's listed as a center. The best left winger we have in our organization who is a legit left winger, you could say it's Sven Berchi or Jona Gadrovic. And none of those guys are top-line left wingers. So, if we get Zadina, he is in that range of being a potential top-line left winger. He's a good top 6, maybe even first-line forward. Same with Svechnikov. These guys both have the potential to be elite players, and they will make an impact at the level of the NHL. So, if we take one of these guys, then we get ourselves another NHL high-caliber forward. Whether that be the guy on the right side or the guy on the left side, doesn't really matter, but we still get a really good forward. Because Zadina, he's also a left-handed shot as well, so he could probably slot in on that right side on the first-line power play alongside of Pettersson and Brock Boeser. So that's pretty good, right? We get ourselves a really good forward as well. But you guys might have seen that video I made yesterday, and the biggest concern in my opinion was the defense. Because the defense was not good. And the defense, the only really good defender we had there was Olli Juolevi. And he's basically the only defenseman in our system that I can comfortably say that we're going to go through with this guy in the future. I don't see Ben Hutton staying with the team. I don't see Tanev staying with the team. We don't know if Tryamkin's going to come back. So, Olli Juolevi's basically it. And if we grabbed ourselves a top forward, then we still have that hole on defense. When guys like Adam Boqvist or Quinn Hughes or Evan Bouchard are still available. Which is why I don't know if I want the Canucks to draft second overall, because I don't know if I want another forward. I would absolutely love it if the Vancouver Canucks drafted first overall and grabbed Rasmus Dahlin, because that would stabilize our defensive core. But if we draft second, and if we go with the best player available mindset, we choose either Zadina or Svechnikov, both top forwards, and we have a lot of good forwards coming up in our system. Sure, it doesn't hurt to have more, but we need defense. And if we're gonna go with the best player available, we're taking one of these two forwards. You could make an argument that Boqvist is better than Svechnikov or Zadina, I get that. But just purely based off of the majority of NHL scouts and mock drafts, Boqvist is most likely gonna go 4th. Some guys have him as high as 2, a lot of guys have him down there at 5th, but I see him going 4th. And if the Vancouver Canucks are in the second overall position, I think it would be best to trade down. I think it will be best to trade down, let the team who wants Svechnikov and or Zadina take them at that spot, and find a way for the Canucks to get a really good defender. Because if we got Boqvist, we got Hughes, we got Bouchard, we got any one of these good defenders coming up in this draft, then that is another important asset added to our D-core. Because we only have Juolevi. And this is why I want to draft first overall so badly, because if there's any team that I think needs Dahlin the most, it is the Vancouver Canucks. We need defense. And I want to draft a defender so bad in this draft, but if we ended up drafting a Svechnikov or a Zadina, or a Matthew Tkachuk, of course I wouldn't be bothered by these picks. They're great players and they're going to help out the team. But in terms of what I believe the team needs, I think we need to trade down. Unless we're willing to take a risk and draft Adam Boqvist second overall, I want to trade down. Unless we're willing to take a risk and we want to draft Quinn Hughes second overall, I want to trade down. I want to trade down to where these guys are projected to go so that we can get more for the same value. We can get more assets when we draft the same guy that we would have taken anyway. Because I think everyone knows that if the Canucks were in first, they'd draft Dahlin. But number 2, that's a different ballgame. It's an entirely different ballgame. Which is kind of why I don't want the Canucks to draft second in general. I'd be fine if we got 4th or 1st. I don't want to make the decision to draft whoever we're going to draft and leave a guy like Svechnikov or Zadina on the board. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be in a position where we're forced to not take a Svechnikov or a Zadina, because both of these guys are really good. I'd rather pick 4th, so we could take whoever we want without any outside criticisms like, oh, why did you take Juolevi when Matthew Tkachuk was available? Look at Tkachuk in his first year, he's doing well. Why did you take Juolevi when Sergachev was available? Look at Sergachev, he's really good. I don't want that to happen again. Of course, if it does, I don't care, but I would prefer it not to. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? So, if the Vancouver Canucks draft is second overall, there are a few outcomes. First off, we either take a really good franchise-changing forward, we take a risk, and we take another huge piece in our defensive core, or we trade down, and we get a good defensive core piece while getting other assets as well. That is the conclusion to the question, what if the Vancouver Canucks drafted second overall? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're like gaming, and bye.